A very good afternoon, participants. As soon as our resource person joins us, we should start. Wait for 5 minutes.
Start fine now. Hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
Is that fine now?
Fine. Pankaj sir has joined.
Now let me try it with the mobile phone. I just tried it with the laptop, but didn't work.
सर एक बार कैमरा आप रोटेट कर लेंगे.
Okay.
दिनेश कैमरा.
I have to. Is this fine now?
Yeah.
Yes, it's fine now.
Now it's fine, but it's now difficult to manage because like the audio port is downside. So how to keep it in the
Start now. Can we start now? Yes. A very warm and pleasant good morning to one and all. I, Pankaj Chaudhary, FDP Cell Coordinator, welcome the resource person of this extension lecture and convener of this extension lecture, co-convener of this extension lecture and organizing secretary of this extension lecture, and all the participants who joined us on this extension lecture on learning English as a second language. We welcome you all on behalf of FDP Cell of RIPG College, Panipat. Now, I would like to invite convener of this extension lecture, Dr. Murata Singh ji, for further proceedings. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Pankaj. A very warm good morning to everyone who have joined us today. I feel extremely honored to welcome Dr. Dinesh Pawar, Assistant Professor, Dayal Singh College, Delhi University. He is a scholar of theatre studies and did his PhD on modern British drama. He has been teaching literature as well as language for more than 15 years. He has authored several books. Some of them are Contemporary Indian Fiction in English, Critical Studies, Modern European Drama, Text to Criticism, Human Values, and Professional Ethics. His areas of interest are drama and theatre studies, literary theories, gender studies, Indian writing in English, and English language teaching. He has been a member of advisory board of various national and international journals. He is also the founder member of Painter Society of India. It's a pleasure, sir, to have you here with us. I also welcome all teachers. I also welcome all teachers and students in this lecture today. Now coming to the topic, it's very difficult to think of a society without language. Language sharpens people's thoughts and is a carrier of civilization and culture. The main goal of learning any language is to develop the speaker's four skills that are reading, writing, listening, and speaking with the command of grammar. But the final goal is to empower speaker to be able to use language communicatively. In case of mother tongue, the child learns it easily due to favorable environment and great amount of exposure to it. Second language is a language that is learned in addition to the language a person first learned as a young child. Learning second language requires conscious efforts. Today we'll be discussing learning English as a second language. English has been the global language for years, and it has achieved this status from a long history of cultural shifts and happenings. In India, it's impossible for any other foreign language to get the place and esteem English enjoys. This has its own reason and course of events which lies in the zone of history. English is a truly universal language that makes communication across the globe easy and convenient. Learning English gives an individual opportunities in education, technology, global trade, and business. But learning English as second language is difficult because we cannot use English in real life situations in India. Students learn sentences in textbooks, not in real environment. Most common challenges students face when learning English as a second language are pronunciation, spellings, slangs, and fluency. It's hard to learn English as second language because it challenges both your mind, as your brain has to construct new cognitive frameworks, and time, as it requires sustained, consistent practice. Today, Dr. Dinesh will discuss learning English as second language, the problems students face, and how to overcome these problems and speak English proficiently and effortlessly. Once again, I welcome you all in this lecture. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Pankaj.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the warm welcome and for the kind words. Now, I would like to invite resource person of this extension lecture, Dr. Dinesh Pawarji. Over to you, sir. Dinesh, sir, over to you.
It's not. Am I now?
Yes, yes. Audible.
Thank you, Dr. Noda and Mr. Pankaj. It is really whenever you are for a talk and you have such a kind of introduction, so difficult to justify. So I'll try my best to justify, and I'll try my best to be meaningful for the students. When I was asked to deliver this lecture on language learning, so last evening, I was thinking about what to say and how to be meaningful for the students. Because generally, whenever we are talking about the ELT English language teaching, sometimes we have a lot of like heavy vocabulary, correct method, grammar method, this method, and that method. But there is another thing which is the practical reality. And whenever you are in the classroom and the job is to teach language, so I find it as more difficult than the teaching literature. Because whenever you are teaching language to the student, so sometimes it seems like boring. And sometimes it seems like how to make them realize that they can learn it. Okay. And in a country like India, where we learn English as a second language, and specifically because in the rural areas may not be a big issue now if you are in the urban space because of the English medium schools and all. But still, if you are talking about the rural area. So there is a people like feel afraid of language, and students they are really very good, and because of language they feel like in a very difficult situation. Sometimes they are not able to justify whatever they know it and how to communicate. So for them, it is very important, or it is really important to learn this language so that they can prove what actually they know. Because they are very good. I feel in my classes sometimes there are students who came from the rural areas, from the remote areas, and actually they are very good in subject, that anchor. But because of the language, sometimes they feel like that they are not able to say, or they're not able to express. So today, in this one, I would like to be very simple and I'll talk about my own experiences because I'm the one who came from the rural background. My father is a farmer. So for me, it was also a very difficult task how to learn this language when I was learning. So with my experiences and a kind of background which I have, background of a rural school, primary school, I studied from a primary school. So how I learned it and what are the things which can be kept in mind whenever you're trying to learn this language. I'll talk about that. And not to be very theoretical kind of thing. My focus will be only practical approach, which is to be, I think, which is something which can be used for the student. Fine. So I made some PPT, but now it is not possible because I'm taking class on a mobile phone. So I'll read it out. When I was thinking, I thought about that there are some questions which is to be addressed before we move on or before we plan to learn this language. The first one is, and it's a very common thing that we see, we ask, what to learn English, or to learn a language which is not your own. So this is something which is easily answered now. Maybe this was a big question like many years ago, but now it is not. It is understandable that you need to learn language because the language which is used in the professional world is the English. So whatever you learned, if you want to that communicate, and if you want to communicate with the world, in that case you need to learn. You need to learn a language which is a kind of a language which is accepted everywhere. And I thought, is there any specific method? Second question in the mind. Is there any specific method which can be used when we want to learn language? Third, can language be taught? Because sometimes people say language cannot be taught. What do? We acquire a language. Learn by acquisition, not by just teaching. Then I thought, can I learn it easily or is it a very difficult kind of a task? Because for the student, sometimes it is really big task and they're afraid of it. Okay. They carry a lot of fear how to learn this, how to make in the language. Then there is another question you may be having in mind. What's the time required to learn a language? Is it a game of a month? It is a game of a 2 month, 3 months, 6 months, or a year? Generally, you might have seen a lot of like posters, kind of a lot of advertisement. Learn English in 30 days, learn English in 40 days, and so and so. Then some of you are like thinking, I need to learn grammar to learn English. Or which one is to learn first? Language or grammar? Which one is first to be learned? And finally, then when you are like thinking about these questions, and finally you are end up somewhere. Start thinking, should I join an English speaking kind of a course so that I can be. So these are the generally the questions in the mind of a student whenever he is thinking to improve his language or whenever he wanted to learn English language. Then I was thinking, what can be the answers of these. First thing which I just want to say to the student, the negative with this like virtual classes that I cannot see your faces. And language learning is not the same. It's not a kind of a literary lecture that you are hearing it and you're listening it and then you're going to write down the examination. It's a different thing. It's a skill. And skill require a kind of a one-to-one interaction. So I'll try to be in this virtual world to be meaningful. Sometimes I find it difficult because I just see my screen, no one else. So the first thing which I believe as a student and as a language learner, you should do, you should be able to ask some question to yourself. And what is that? For a language, if you want to learn a language, second language, the most important thing is that you should be able to believe. You should be able to believe that you can do this or you can learn this language. So first, you should, or you need to ask yourself, do you really believe it that you can learn? Second, it's a game that you need to change your own mindset. Okay. And third, the most important thing, which I feel when you're learning a language, is that you should not afraid of mistakes. If you're afraid of mistakes, and also need to think about it. This language learning when you're planning to learn a second language. Will it make a difference in your career, in your path to success? You'll get the answer. Definitely, this language will make a difference. You learn it, your path. So the first thing which you should do when you are trying to learn this language is that you have to come out of that fear that I'm going to be judged. Somebody is going to judge me. Somebody is going to think about me. Somebody is going to ask questions about my language. So first, you have to be out of these things. And I think that process to learn language will be quite easy. Fine. Now, how to go with it? What are the methods which can be used? I would say that the first thing which you require to do is what is needed the most. I would say it is self-motivation. You have to understand that language is not a game of days or month. It requires years to be trained. So first thing, what is required is your motivation that you really want to learn this language. That desire to learn the language. Okay. And that fear of errors, kick it out. Fine. Now, when you've decided that you want to learn this language and you are no more afraid of errors, and you are convinced really that you want to start with it. So how to start with it? Because generally there is a complaint, like most of the language learners do whenever they just want to learn language. They keep complaining that there is no environment. If I want to learn language, so how do I learn it? I don't find anyone. with whom I can talk, with whom I can discuss in that particular language, in a target language which I want to learn. And it is because our native language is Hindi. I think this is the language which is being spoken all over. Once you are back from the college, you are again in the Hindi world. And still, even if you are in the college, you are again in the Hindi world. Apart from those some lectures, when you are in the classroom, you are listening to them. So what to do is, you have to keep in mind, if you look for the environment and you're waiting for that, or you have been waiting for that environment to be built up by someone, so you have to forget about this. It is like my friend professors were aware about the waiting for Godot. It is like waiting for Godot. Never come. So you have to forget about that environment you need to create yourself. Okay. So first thing, what we can do is language learning. With my experience, you have to learn the survival English. First thing which you can do is you have to start learning the survival English. And what do you mean by when we say the survival English? Like making some kind of sentences using the word, and by using those words, one or two sentences. Because it's a very gradual process. And you have to stop thinking about the grammar. Whenever you're trying with the language, you're trying to learn this language, you have to forget about the grammar. Because if you started carrying so many filters in the beginning, when you are learning a language, you're learning a second language, and you are carrying a lot of filters in mind. And what are these filters? That is that what I'm saying? Is it really grammatically okay or not? Is my pronunciation is wrong or right? If you're carrying these so many questions in the beginning, so you won't be able to speak. You won't be able to say anything. So first thing, what you have to do is you have to forget about the grammar. Because this can be done later. Once you got the confidence, these things can be done later. So first step is the survival. Second, you have to forget about the grammar. And the third important thing is language learning is you have to observe. If you see about the native language, how do we learn in a native language? Like if you're talking about the English, Hindi. So how did we learn Hindi? We learn Hindi by repetition. We learn Hindi because we observe and we just try to copy it. What is the difference? Why a kid is able to learn a language, second language, easily when you compare with the adult or the younger one? Because the kid is not carrying so many filters in his mind. A kid is not the error comes. It's not the error comes. It has nothing to do what the other is going to think. Take the example, if you are a kid, if he's looking for a water, and even if he says mom, and he has got the water, he's fine with it. There's no issue. He just wanted to have water, and he got it, and he's not concerned about whether the sentence or the word was right or wrong. But the problem is with the grown up. Once you are grown up, you wanted to be, or you want to be the perfect from the very first day of your language learning. From the first day, you want to say it what you don't want to start the way a kid started. And this is what is the problem here. Because language cannot be learned from the very day, or you cannot speak language perfectly from the very first day. It's a very gradual process. The way you learn your language, it is to be learned in the same way. So, because you are aware, you are conscious about your mistakes, that's why you are not able to start. And whenever you want to start, whenever you want to speak, you are full of questions that what your teacher is going to think about, your friends are going to think about. So you have to forget all these things. And believe me, it is not a difficult language. All over the world, now you see the people who are speaking English. So more than 95% people are those who are not the native speaker of this language. Hardly 4 to 5% are the native speakers. And maximum, they are not the native speakers. So now it is not a language of the Britishers, of the native speakers. There was a time, the Anuradha and the other faculty must be aware, there was a time when we used to be taught that we need to follow the RP, received pronunciation. And we were supposed to copy the natives. We were supposed to follow the native, the way they speak. Because they were the standards and we were supposed to follow them. But now, things changed. All over the world, now all kinds of English is accepted. Either you speak like Asian English, American, British, RP, no. It doesn't matter. Now, what does matter is that you are able to communicate. If you are able to say, or if you are able to communicate whatever you want to do, and it is understood the way you want it to be understood, your problem is solved. So now, the first thing which you have to understand that forget about the fear of it, only afraid of language. It is a kind of language now which is spoken all over the world. No one has right to say you that you are wrong. Right? Fine. Third thing, I mean, whenever we are learning it, it is always considered that you start from learning from word to sentences. Learn word and then make sentences. But it is very important that the meaning you're learning is should be in the structure in a sentence. Do not learn a word meaning in isolation. Because most of the students, whenever they are like full of energy and they feel like now they're going to learn language, they are going to make the language better or best. So what do they do with a lot of like enthusiasm? What do they do? They start cramming words. And by like in like 4 days or 5 days or 7 days or in a month, they're finished up. You have to understand that language has a kind of tendency. That what is that tendency? If you see something again and again, it will stay in your mind. But if you sit down and cram it up or mug it up, and after like some days, you want to recollect, you won't be able to recollect any lot of. So what you have to do is you have to develop a habit that you learn words in the sentences, not in the isolation. Because in the isolation, you won't be able to remember them. And whenever you want to use them, you won't be able to find out words. And as a learner, you also need to do one. You need to go slow. And this is the problem with most of the Indians. So sometimes I do feel that this is also my problem. That the most of the Indians, they speak with a lot of pace. Number of words spoken in a minute are much more higher if you compare it with the international standard. So as a language learner, your pace should not be very much. Because if your pace is not much, your mind will have time to think same sentences and you can easily communicate. Keep in mind one thing. The day you started listening your own sentences, listening your own language while speaking, you learn language, learning. Because you might have noticed as a language learner, there's sometimes when you want to start with English, what you can do, either you can speak or you can listen. Generally, as a beginner, you're so much afraid of that you won't be able to listen your own voice. You won't be able to listen whatever you are saying. You won't be able to follow yourself. And that's why there is a very less scope of correction. And you won't be able to correct. Right. So go slow and try to listen whatever you say. Other thing which is important in language is, and this is something happens with all language learners, that what do? We think in English, we think in mother tongue or native language, and we translate it into English. So what do we do actually? We do translation. And the translation in language is not visible. I tell you a story, just heard about that. There were some people like from India, they went to France and they were the one who like they know French, like they're not comfortable. They know only their own language. So they went there and they requested the organizer who's organizing a kind of a meeting or something here. They requested that please you do arrange a tutor who can teach us French because we want to learn this language so that we, whenever we are staying here, so comfortably we can communicate and we can learn things. So on the request of these guests, tutor was arranged for the students. And the job of the tutor was to teach them the French so that they're a bit comfortable in a survival kind of French so that they can say something. So it was the first day they all were studying in the classroom, and the tutor of the French came and he started his lecture saying good morning in French, carried his lecture in French, and ended in French, said goodbye. So now the tutor left the class. So now the students started talking to each other because they could not make anything out of it. They couldn't understand, and they were talking to each other. They started thinking that actually this is the other problem, that we are not able to speak French. And this tutor came, spoke everything in French, and left the class. And we are not able to understand anything. And they thought that maybe tomorrow he's going to come again and he will teach us again by doing some kind of translation. So again, they waited for the next day, and the tutor again came in the classroom, started in French, carried in French, ended in French, said goodbye in French. Then again, second day is over, third is same. Now these people like they're worried, and they met to the organizer and asked him So please do something. We just want to learn French, and this man who is appointed by you as a tutor is come in the class again and again, saying everything in French, left the class. Actually, this is the problem. We're not able to learn anything. We're not able to make meaning out of it. So please do request him, say them that this is our problem. So the organizer went to the tutor and requested him that these students actually are worried about. They just want to learn French, and they're not aware about. They don't know anything about the French. Please do help. So now the next day, tutor came in the class and made them understand the student. He said that if you want to learn a language, language cannot be learned by translation. Now onward, what you have to do, you just keep following me, whatever I'm saying. Keep listening carefully, and you'll find the difference. So next day, when the tutor came and he started teaching in French, people started following closely, started paying attention, started learning the language way it is. So at the end of the class, by the expression, gesture, so they were able to make some meaning out of it. They were able to guess it, what actually he just wanted to communicate. And you might have heard, my dear student, you might have heard it, that whenever you're talking about the language is not about the spoken word. It is also about the, the gesture, your expression. If they are not supporting your words, so they won't be able to leave a impact, or impact of the language won't be very powerful. Fine. So what we have to do, we have to stop translation in our mind. Because most of us who are the language learner, this is where we make a mistake. That each and every time. So what do? We listen something, translate into English, then we speak. So now what is the problem is, you have to understand that mind has its own pace. Okay, language is a kind of a coding system. That you heard some kind of code, your mind started decoding. Okay, and because you wanted to translate, so you translated, then you spoke. So now what is going to happen? If you are stuck in translation, your mind will require extra time to translate into a desired language. Translate from Hindi to English. So because of that extra time, which is mind required to translate, so the problem will be what? You will be stuck because you are stuck in translation. And time will run away. And then you are like, your confidence will go low and you won't be able to say anything. So first, what is the requirement is that we have to train our mind. We have to train our mind, or we have to train our thinking process into English. Whatever I want to say, I'm thinking in English. And when it's done, you won't have any kind of issue in speaking this language. And you'll be very comfortable. Fine. And how do you do that? How do you do that? How to train mind? How to build up that thinking process in English? The best thing which I feel, and still I feel, is to what? Is the listening. There are 4 skills of language. You are all aware. Listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about the 2 skills, which are very important if you are learning the second language, English as a second language. Okay. And these are the most important thing but the most important skill is listening. I give you an example. Once I had been to because I'm in Delhi, we keep visiting Connaught Place. So if you get a chance to go to the Connaught Place, you notice one thing there. Generally, if you go to the Connaught Place, there are so many women and men who are they're sitting on the floor and selling some kind of like necklace and purse and like such stuff. So what do? You do one thing. You ask these people in English, whatever you want to ask. Ask the price of anything. Ask the whatever. Like for example, you say, what is the price of this particular black one or the red one? So you'll be surprised to know they will be able to answer you in English. That this is of 2 rupees, this is of 5 rupees, this is of 7 rupees. And these are the ones who never been to school. These are the ones who never been part of a formal education. These are the ones who never learned grammar, but they are still able to speak because this is the natural way of learning the language. Okay, questions I will take later. Amansi student raised hand. Okay, so I'll take it later. Fine. Is that okay? Dr. Anuradha?
Yes,
Fine.
sir. That's okay.
So, because they learn this language in a very natural way. And this is the way of learning a language. And this is how we can learn this as well. So the most important thing which I want all of you to start is listening. And there was a time when we were learning this language that it was very difficult to get so much stuff in English because that was not feasible that time. And if my friends remember, there used to be language labs. Remember in the colleges, schools, and in those language labs, there used to be equipment which are there to record your voice and you can rewind and listen to them. But now it's easily available. What you have to do? You choose whatever you want to listen. Go to a TED Talks. Go to the YouTube and find a lot of TED Talks, like 10, 15 minutes, 6 minutes. Okay. See a movie or a series on Netflix or Amazon, wherever. Go to the YouTube. Miss what? What is important? The first thing important is that you need to increase your intake. Okay. There is a simple formula. Like if you have an input of English, then only you can expect that you are going to have the output of English. If you have an input of Hindi, so we cannot expect that the output will be of English. So what you have to do is you have to increase your input. Okay. And the best way to increase the input is listening. Because listening is something, and you have to do one more thing. Okay. Please don't make mistake. When you are listening a talk, when you're seeing a movie, you are actually have to focus on the language. Because your focus should be language, not just a meaning. Okay. So the benefit is that when you pay attention on the language and the structure, how the sentences are framed, and when a person want to say something, how it is pronounced. So actually what is happening is consciously or unconsciously, what is happening is the brain is being trained. Okay. And you are increasing the input of the language, which is required for the thinking person. which will help later you to think English. And I strongly believe that if you start doing this now, you'll find the difference in 2-3 months, 4 months. Okay. Then you won't feel any kind of requirement going for a English speaking class. It's there, and you can easily do it. Okay. And the next thing, which I was talking about, because this generally we say that we need to build a vocabulary. Sometimes it happens that we just want to say something, but actually we don't find words how to say them because we don't have the words. You have to understand that if you, just like I'm speaking for more than 1 hour, I'm going to speak for 1 hour, and believe me, अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ और आप देखिए मैं कितने वर्ड इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूँ, and if you note it down, you will be surprised to see that these number of words are very counted, and I can speak for hours. Okay, so what are we doing is just placing here and there these words and making meaning out of it. Okay, linguist में इसलिए एक बार जो linguist थे, he used to say कि all subjects are same, सारे subjects same, because the difference is where how you are placing words, because at the background of words are same, but the difference is how you are placing them. So whenever you are learning language, you don't require much. तो थोड़े से वर्ड चाहिए और आप घंटों बोल सकते हैं. Fine. So what you have to do is you have to be a sharp listener, and the focus should be that you are listening for the language sake. I remember when I was studying, because I told you I studied from primary school. तो मैंने छठी क्लास में ABCD सीखा, like I was in 6th standard. So when I left my home for the hostel, and the most difficult thing was what, you know, because I remember मैं जब ग्रेजुएशन कर रहा था तो हमारे कुछ टीचर इंग्लिश को भी हिंदी में पढ़ाते थे, तो मैं वो था जिसने इंग्लिश भी हिंदी में पढ़ी थी. So the most difficult was how to overcome this, how to learn this language. So I started doing. First thing was how to build vocabulary. So I tell you the best way of doing this, and believe me, this is the best way, and this is something which I experienced in my life. What is that best way? आपको क्या करना है? कभी don't sit down and cram the words. ऐसा नहीं बैठ कर रटना नहीं. Don't do that. Because I told you the nature of language is once you start cramming it, you'll forget it. अगर आपने word cram किए, you just want to recollect them, you won't be able to recollect much. पता लगेगा आपने 10 word cram किए थे, याद 2-3 ही रहे. Don't do it. What you have to do is, dear students, take a kind of a chit, जो छोटे पेपर आते हैं ना, शीट आती है छोटी सी, कोई भी ऐसे ले लो या खुद से बना लो, एक पेपर को फोल्ड के इसके 4-5 बना लीजिए. So what you have to do is, you have to write down 1 or 2 words, not more than that. ज्यादा नहीं लिखना, 1 या 2 बस, जो आपको लगता है कि बार बार सुनाई देते हैं यार, you want to learn these words. उनको उस पेपर पे लिखना है और बस लिख के फाड़ के अपने जेब में रख लेना. when you are going out कॉलेज में जा रहे हैं, रटना नहीं. बस आपको क्या करना है, जब भी आपको कुछ समय सेकंड का समय मिले, when you go to a time of like few seconds, आपको निकालना है ये वर्ड, ये मीनिंग है, this is how it is used, बस रख लेना वापस, and do it like 4 or 5 times, 6 times in a day. सुबह जब आप घर से निकले तो सिर्फ देखना है, रख लेना है, कुछ नहीं करना, याद नहीं करना, क्रैम नहीं करना. And believe me, do it for 10 days, and this is try to recollect the word which you learned last 10 days. You'll be surprised to see that you are able to recollect words. Okay, maybe 7, maybe 8 out of 10, and which is not possible if you cram these words. So please don't cram. And I told you, you don't require so many words. Like I think English has the biggest vocabulary in the world. But आपको उससे करना क्या है? You don't require that kind of vocabulary. It can be gradually built. So you just require those words which can be used day to day. Fine. And believe me, you'll have enough words which is required to speak a language. Okay. And what the other thing you can do is you can learn some fixed phrases when you are starting life. In the beginning, you can, if you are just a beginner, what you can do is you learn some fixed phrases. Like, because you are making a habit, that's why you require this. And if you are already in the habit, so you go further, you improve it. So like fixed phrase, जैसे could you give me? Okay. अब इससे बहुत सारे सेंटेंस बन सकते हैं. Could you give me a pen? Tell me. Do you do this? यानी आपने कुछ फिक्स फ्रेजेस बना लिए हैं जिससे आपको सेंटेंस में कंस्ट्रक्ट करने में हेल्प मिलेगी. And this is how we can begin. Fine. Now, as I was talking about, apart from these, the most important thing is, I said, imitation. I think this is the best way, which can be, where you can learn any language, German, French, English, any language. Start imitating. Okay, because लाइफ में ना वैसे भी मेरा मानना है कि जैसा आपको बनना है ना, तब तभी you want to be in your life, start copying the person who you feel or your ideal. Okay, माने आपको अमिताभ बच्चन बनना है, start copying like अमिताभ बच्चन, तो शायद एक्टिंग स्किल सीख जाओगे. Because these are skills. Have to make a difference. Language is a skill. Okay, it's like learning other skill. जैसे आप कंप्यूटर चलाना सीखते हैं, जैसे आप कुछ चीज रिपेयर करना सीखते हैं, it's a skill. So don't feel any kind of fear about it. It's just a skill. And if you're making errors in English, so it's not a big deal. It's not my language. अगर मैं हिंदी में गलती करता हूँ, I should feel like uncomfortable. Making mistakes in English, it's not a matter. नेटिव स्पीकर यहाँ पे आते हैं, वो मेरठ को मेरुट बोलते हैं, गंगा को गंगा बोलते हैं. That's not important. So you have to learn language. And the basic purpose, what is the basic purpose of languages? Basic purpose of language is to communicate. Whatever you wanted to say, it should be understood. The way you want it to be understood, your purpose is solved. That's finished. I mean, it's fine. Because whatever you wanted to say, it has got. Okay. So please, my dear student, start imitating. Talk सुनिए, movies देखिए, गाने सुनिए. Language is like music. Okay. The way you enjoy, मैंने अभी एक movie देखी, पुष्पा. Have you seen that? देखोगे बहुत सारे, वो Amazon पे आई है. And I saw it in Tamil. English में भी है, translation में भी, हिंदी में भी है. I saw it in the original language. I could enjoy it. Even I was not able to understand each and every word, but I was able to enjoy it. I was able to understood it. So language is beautiful. If you want to really enjoy it, love language. Important is that you start loving language. The language which you want to learn. If you want to learn English, you start loving it. Honestly, listen music. Okay, sing like a song. Okay. And believe me, you will feel a change. And you are going to speak so well. You will be proud of. हमसे अच्छा बोलते हैं हमारे बच्चे. You can really. So the start imitating. And the other important thing is the repetition. Language learning repetition is very important. You need to practice it day in and day out. And if you're not doing practice, nobody can teach you language. And believe me, there is no book, चाहे वो Rapidex English हो. I remember हमारे टाइम में एक बुक आया करती थी Rapidex English. और I remember मैं लैंग्वेज लर्न कर रहा था, तो किसी ने कहा कि यार तू वहाँ चला जा, अमेरिकन इंग्लिश करके खुला हुआ इंस्टीट्यूट, तो वहाँ पे भाषा सीखते हैं, लैंग्वेज सिखाते हैं. तो believe me, I had been to American English. मैं वहाँ गया, it was 4-5 days, 6 days, 7 days. तो मैं ऐसा नहीं कहता कि कुछ सीखा नहीं, गया कुछ दिनों के लिए, but actually I couldn't learn much. और आज मैं बताऊं, अगर मैं सोचता हूँ, उन्होंने बहुत कुछ मुझे सिखाया था जो गलत सिखाया था. And there are so many like उनको कहो कि please introduce, वो कहेंगे myself, है ना, वो myself उन्होंने सिखाया था मुझको, गलत था. आज समझ में आया तो गलत इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहा था. Not myself, I am. Okay. So, I will say, language is required to book. कोई book नहीं चाहिए. Don't require any kind of institution. What is required is your motivation, self-motivation. That I want to learn it. And what require is the imitation and repetition. If you can imitate and repeat, you can learn it. So what you have to do is start listening to something, start seeing a movie, and repeat it again and again. Then you will find a difference. Be able to learn this. And the most important thing which I told you, please believe in meaning, not in translation. जैसे कि मैं एक बार पढ़ा रहा था बच्चों को, मैंने कहा देखो ट्रांसलेशन कैसे पॉसिबल है. There is a very famous kind of word, use people say, I gotta go. बोलते हैं ना, I gotta go. तो मैंने कहा कि अगर इसको हम ट्रांसलेट करें, so what will be the meaning of it? I just want to say, I gotta go. So I got to go. तो I मतलब मुझे, got पाना, तो मतलब जाना, मुझे पाना जाना. This is not the meaning of this. I gotta go means I just want to immediately go. बताओ ट्रांसलेशन कैसे करोगे? Can you do the translation? No. Can carry the meaning. Can make the sense. Once you are trapped in translation, you won't be able to say anything. You won't be able to. Once you are trapped in grammar, you won't be able to do anything. So please don't be the trap of grammar and translation. These things will come later. This is the second stage, third stage. When you start improving your grammar, structure, your pronunciation. The first stage is to speak without being error conscious. So this is the golden rule of language, I would say. The golden rule of language is to making mistakes. If you're not afraid of making mistakes, you learn this language. Okay. So first thing to do is take a deep breathe out, and say whatever you feel like. टूटे-फूटे sentence हैं, broken language हैं, grammatical error हैं, no issue, no problem, because not your mother tongue. जो आपने मदर टंग अपनी ऐसे सीखी है, and we are talking about the second language. तो आपने हिंदी को ऐसे सीखा है, तो इंग्लिश को इससे बेहतर कैसे सीख सकते हैं? So you have to go the way you went with your Hindi, the way you went with your mother tongue. The broken words, तुतलाते हुए, fine, without being very conscious about language. Okay, and please don't be afraid of judge. लोग क्या करेंगे? Okay, don't be that the people are going to judge you. I remember a beautiful line by Albert Einstein. सर नाम सुना है Albert Einstein का, और he was a genius man, scientist, and he was a very bad student, you know, बहुत खराब student थे Einstein. And he said something about the judgment, that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. It will spend its entire life believing stupid. Okay. So fish को अगर climbing ability से आप judge करोगे, just like start believing that she was stupid whole life. So please, your ability is not on the stake. Your caliber is not on the stake. Because what we start doing is, what we start thinking is, we start feeling that we are on stake, our caliber is on stake, our knowledge is on stake. Forget about, don't associate language with your knowledge. Knowledge is a different thing. Language is just a medium, it's a tool which you are using to communicate about knowledge. So your knowledge cannot be judged by just language. So you have to believe that you are best. And you believe in your knowledge. And language just a tool. You're learning it. Fine. So believe in meaning, not in translation. And keep repeating. Then I said you that repeated listening is very important. Again and again, I said you. And what you have to do is when you're listening, you have to listen and retain the structure of the sentences in your mind. And you have to follow the rhythm of the language. Okay. You have to follow the rhythm of the language. Then I think you'll be able to learn better. And I said you follow your taste, whatever you want. Acha, this is another important thing which we can do it. Use technology. Because in my time there used to be language labs. And they used to be laid back, rewind so that they can listen their own errors. There is a very famous like Francis Bacon. Writing makes a man exact. I'm saying the last one. Okay, writing makes a man exact. Why he said the writing makes a man exact? Because it is only writing. Because जब वो लिख रहा था, Francis Bacon वो जब लिख रहा था, recording नहीं थी. Okay. So he's saying that in writing, you can find out your own errors. Because whatever you return is there on the paper. And you can make correction. तो उसको पढ़ोगे, you'll find more errors, again correct, again correct, again correct. And finally it's in a state where it is like near to perfection. Perfection तो कुछ होता ही नहीं, but it's near to perfection. So now in the language, the positive is now we have recording devices, and that is in your hand. You don't require to go to anywhere. Just use a mobile phone, record your voice, listen. How do you speak? And where is the things which can be true? But the important is, the punch is that you have to do it every day. This is where the most of the language learner, like lack. Don't do it every day. You just do it for some day and then leave it. So that is the creative. So you have to do it every day. Definitely. One more skill which I was talking about, saying that I'm going to talk about, that is reading. Because reading is also important. Because reading makes what? Reading increases your stuff. Stuff for what? The input stuff. So whenever you do reading, you read it for language sake. Language sake, do it reading. And you have to also start what? Make a habit of loving yourself. Do the self-talk. अभी self-talk करते हो ना आप लोग? सब करते हैं, हम भी करते हैं. कई बार बहुत ज्यादा हो जाती है, and you are not aware कि आप क्या कर रहे थे, भूल भी जाते हैं. You are so much into self-talk. So self-talk is very good. Because what is happening in our society, sometimes you're so much afraid of कि कोई क्या कहेगा, गलत कहेगा, सही कहेगा. ना, तो इंसान की एक ही अच्छी आदत है, तो वैसी है. He knows how to find fault. मान लें अगर मैं बोल रहा हूँ तो मुझ में गलती निकालना उसको बहुत जल्दी आता है. Can make mistakes, can find fault. तो ये उसकी अच्छी आदत है. इस अच्छी आदत का आप इस्तेमाल करो. So you make mistakes. There are so many here. तो करेक्ट यू। फ्री वाले सलाहकार बोलते हैं जो आपको ठीक करेंगे। What you have to do is you have to start making mistakes. So don't afraid of mistakes. Make them. So start develop a habit of self-talk. When you're alone, think in English. Self-talk में क्या करना है आपको? हिंदी में नहीं सोचना है. Try to train your brain. Actually ये training है brain की. You have to train your brain think in English. If you start thinking in English, you will be able to speak in them. So whenever you're alone, thinking on anything, any topic, what are you going to do tomorrow? How's going? Getting a friend? What are you going to say? Just think all these things in English. Don't translate. Okay. And one more thing which can be very good. And generally it used to be done, like it used to be carried earlier in the schools. आजकल शायद इतना नहीं कराते हैं. Read aloud. Take a book. Please read it loud. Loud. Benefit of this, your tongue will get a habit of pronunciation. Because you are in the habit of speaking Hindi sound. So whenever you speak English, you feel a little bit uncomfortable. You don't enjoy it. Don't feel like staying with it. So the benefit of speaking loud is that your tongue will be habitual of words. And your pronunciation will be more clear. You'll be more comfortable with the sound. Fine. And again, it is to be done repeatedly. And do writing short stories. बैठ के कुछ कहानियां बना सकते हैं अगर if you are creative, think of a story and write down. And कुछ छोटी सी कहानी पढ़ो and just try to recollect it in English. The way you learned it, the way you read it. Try to think about English in English. That story is. So the benefit of this, actually what you're doing is you're training your mind. Because your mind is trained in the language. हिंदी में कभी आपको नीड पड़ती है कि आपको सोचना पड़े या ट्रांसलेट करना पड़े? नो. सो स्पॉन्टेनियस. किसी ने सवाल पूछा नहीं, आंसर्ड इट बिकॉज इट्स ऑटोमेटिक, स्पॉन्टेनियस एंड योर ब्रेन इज ट्रेन्ड टू इट. उसको ट्रांसलेशन नहीं करना पड़ता है. वो हिंदी में सोच रहा है, हिंदी में जवाब दे रहा है. बट जैसे ही किसी ने इंग्लिश में पूछा, देन यू स्टार्ट ट्रांसलेटिंग इट बिकॉज योर ब्रेन इज नॉट ट्रेन्ड. सो इट इज अ ब्रेन ट्रेनिंग एक्चुअली. योर ब्रेन ट्रेनिंग एंड योर वोकल कोड ट्रेनिंग. So if you're able to do that, speak something. सबसे important क्या है ना? Attitude. Attitude is important. You may see so many people, like अपने around देखिए, there are so many. They may claim that they play very good cricket, they play very good football, and they play very good basketball, and they're so much confident. कई बार आपको लगने लगता है कि सचिन बहुत अच्छा खेलता है. Once you got a chance to see him playing, आपको लगेगा यार इससे बेहतर तो आप खेलते हो. But you're not confident. He has no skill, but still he is confident. But you have skills, but you're not confident. So maybe that you are better than many others. But because you are not believing in yourself, that you are better than others. So what do? You don't speak. So start believing that you are better than the others and feel confident. Carry the attitude. Because you require it. It's a brain game, attitude. Fine. And what you can do is you can practice. You can practice with your buddies. That is the one way. With self, अपने आप से practice करिए. Self-talk, what I was talking about. Use the mock interview. Okay. Play a role. Play alone. If you don't find any partner, you can play alone. From this side and that side. दोनों तरफ से आप बात कर लीजिए, सवाल जवाब कर लीजिए, इंटरव्यू कर लीजिए. Please don't wait for mahol. You won't get the mahol in India. If you're waiting for, if you have been waiting for that, if one day you'll have a mahol kind of and you'll learn it, you won't find it. You have to create it. And definitely you'll be able to learn it. Fine. So there's a lot to say, but I'm leaving it here. I'm leaving some time for the students to ask questions. Thank you so much. It would have been better अगर मैं आपको देख पाता कि इससे motivation है. language classes is about the motivation. It's not about like listening and reading and writing. It's like one to one. You feel energy, feel connected, and that I'm missing it. I'm just seeing this thing. Okay. So anyway, now it's open for question, query. If you want to ask anything, please do. I hope I was meaningful to this. I'm just trying to on the track. Thank you. Am I audible? Anuradha, Dr. Anuradha?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. So please, here is my kind of a query.
Pankaj, Vikas, sir. Ma'am, Vikas. Should I start, ma'am?
Yeah, you may start.
Yes, sir. ये मैं आपको last time ही दिया था।
Ma'am, Anuradha, ma'am, should I start?
Hello,
Ma'am, should I
Sonia, you
start?
may wind up the lecture.
Okay,
You may
thank you so
start.
much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. So thank you so much, Dr. Dinesh, Associate Professor, Department of English, Delhi University. Sir, needless to say that the lecture was very thought-provoking, student-oriented, yet very simple and interesting. But if I'll keep on adding the adjectives, it would be cliche. But sir, personally, I count you as an inspiration that you are in Delhi University and serving the services very diligently. Thank you so much, sir. You are in my friend list, and I'm very proud of that. And the lecture was really very interesting. It was very nice to be in association with you, and I hope that it would continue in future also. With this, I would like to thank our Honorable Principal, Sir, Dr. Jagdish Gupta, IQAC cell, FDP cell, our worthy HOD ma'am, Dr. Anuradha Singh, Dr. Meenal Dalos ma'am, all the faculty members, and last but not least, participants of this webinar. Dinesh sir, I would like to extend again my sincere thanks to you for sparing your valuable time, and I hope this association will continue in future also.
Yeah, is there any kind of a question because some students were raising hands?
Sir, actually the lecture was so interesting and there is no scope for questioning.
Anyway, you can ask.
And in next section, sir, we hope that we'll see you personally because of COVID and all that, we were not able to invite you. But in next session, I sincerely hope that you will be there.
I'm not a tech-savvy kind of person, so it's not easy to.
Yes, sir. Literature people are not that tech savvy. I clearly understand that. I'm very poor in technology either. But definitely next time, sir, you have to come here in the college.
Well,
With the kind permission of HOD ma'am. Ma'am, can I invite him?
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much,
sir.
sir.
Hello, Sonia ma'am, wait. Switch on your cameras for the photo. All participants, please switch on your cameras.
Okay, sir.
Wait a second, ma'am. Wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj and everyone. Friends, it was nice meeting all of you and my dear students.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day, sir. Stay safe. Thank you, sir. Have a nice day. Thank you.